Hello YouTube land, my name is Art. I'm back with another video. It is Saturday, 12 noon. I just technically rolled out, the last couple of days it was a very rough couple days couple days ago. I helped a friend. That turned into a clusterfuck. Let's just say, dealing with one friend, I didn't get home till after midnight. Then another friend needed a ride at 2 in the morning from work. So then the place where she was going, they wasn't there. They were downtown Detroit. So I had to drive from where her job was all the way to downtown freaking Detroit to figure out where this motherfucker was. And then drive back home. So basically I got home at maybe like 3:30ish. And I tried to get up at 5 to go to work. Then get up to 6. So I was, tired all day. Drinking so much caffeine to stay awake. Came home and I just crashed. Then I woke up, watched TV till about 2 in the morning. Then I tried to force myself to sleep, and now I've been up since 8. Actually didn't get out of bed till like an hour or so ago. Wanted to get some coffee. Couldn't decide what I want, an iced coffee. What I like ice. There's two types of ice. It's iced coffee, and it's like slush coffee. I love the iced slush coffee, but oh well. So I picked the good old fashioned Colombian coffee. Now, what I want to talk about today is a very touchy subject. Very touchy subject. And what it is, it's very touchy, and because there's no real clear definition of it. There is a definition of it, but everybody has their own version of the definition. Let's talk about racism. Now, according to the dictionary, racism is prejudice, discrimination, or antagonism directed against someone of a different race, based on the belief that one own's race is superior. Okay, now the belief that all members of each race possesses characteristics or abilities specific to that race, especially so as to distinguish it as inferior or superior to another race or other races. Now that could be a negative or positive. For example, back in the day, people thought that all black people could play basketball. And it's based on that definition, that's racism. That could be considered racism. Because I remember a lot of people trying to pick me. I'm like, I can't play, bro. Then when they realize I can't play, they're like, what kind of sometimes some people say, what kind of a black person are you? And it goes from everywhere. Now, if you notice, if you've been seeing a lot of my videos, you notice I don't speak black. Yeah, I know, it's amazing, right? I speak English. But see, a lot of people don't, if you haven't noticed that, it's like, wow, are you really black? Okay. In my family, I consider the white guy. And there's only white people in my family. One, because here's the thing. My dad, he has faults, but one of the things he always told me, he said, speak like you got some sense. Now, grammatically, that is the most incorrect sentence ever. I tried to school him on that, and then I got popped. Never try to correct your parents when you're like 9 or 10. Ooh, boy. But the idea behind it is this: always speak like you have common sense. Always speak like you have a mind. Always speak that you have some kind of intelligence. And the reason why he said that is because white people think you're ignorant. You could be the smartest man in the room, but because you're black, people will think you're ignorant. People think you don't know anything. And I'm thinking to myself, really? Seriously? Are you kidding me? But then again, this was I was growing up in the 80s at that time. This is the 1970s to 80s philosophy. Okay? Now you notice this is like 40 years later. 30 to 40 years later. Think about it. Just think about it. This is the kind of viewpoint that was 30 years ago. I remember I was in like fifth grade, and we had an exchange program with another school where some there's like five students would go to their school and five of their students would go to our school. I don't know why, but it was to show you some kind of difference. I think one of the reasons why because the one school, the one middle school, was close to this other area, and so some of those students might show up at that school. I don't know. So I was one of the ones chosen. So what happened was they asked me to read a passage. So I read the passage. Would you believe that people thought I could? They didn't realize that I could read. Oh my gosh, you read that so well. How do you read well? I mean, I'm thinking to myself, the fuck are you talking about? I didn't realize you can. I didn't realize you could do math so well. I didn't know. And I'm sitting right here. I was like, wow, maybe my dad has a point. And when I got back, he asked me about it. I said, did you realize that? It's funny. They thought it was amazing that I could actually read well. And then my father goes, see what I'm talking about? Those white people. And the funny thing is that, but you gotta think about it. In a sense, where my dad was kind of considered racist, even though he's not. But thing is, he grew up through the civil rights era. He was a teenager during the civil rights era, so you gotta think about it. Where you grew up before it affects how you live today, you know. And it's funny because like some of the things that, I mean, true. I'm gonna say this, and I hate this damn fucking word. I've been called a nigger a million times. And it's the mindset of the people. That's the reason why people look at it. I remember about 10 years ago, I was living in this little area, and it's somewhat affluent, not affluent, but upper scale. I'm walking down the street, and if the fun and this guy drives by a car. He's like, "Oh, nigga." I'm like, "Oh, shit." I mean, you think because you live in this area, don't you think people have more better common sense, more intelligence? And then I hear that shit. Really, really now? Oh my goodness. But how many times, and a lot of times when I talk to some people about it, they're like, well, don't you feel like, like, especially going on today, don't you think Trump's tweets are kind of racist? And I have to kind of think about what they're asking me. Don't you think this person's tweet is kind of racist? Or I'm like, well, if you go against someone who has a different background than you, doesn't necessarily mean it's racist. But the way how you say some things kind of condescends from what racist past in the racist past. For example, in the past, like 30 some years ago, people say, go back to where you came from. Now, 30 years ago, that meant go back to Africa for me. Or go, if you're Indian, go back to India, go back to China, go back to Japan, go back to where you came from. And so I looked up, I said, why don't you go back to where you came from? He said, I'm American. I said, yeah, but your people are from England, fool. Ooh. I mean, I tell you, the only people who have technically a legitimate claim to this country was the Native Americans, in my opinion, because they settled here. But they didn't care about land. They just said we all share it. I'm gonna start sweating because of this coffee. Stupid me. But anyway, but that's the connotation. Now here's the question. Now when he said go back to where you came from, then he said to your districts because he had to try to clarify. I mean, I read the tweet. I'm pretty sure a lot of people read those tweets, and they call those fight tweet cone. And some of my contemporaries, for example, the woke black people, the conservative black people would say those are not racist tweets. To someone like me, I'm like, whether or not it's racist or not, that's very disrespectful. Regardless of what they said about you, how you go about it is more disrespectful than actual racist. And but then again, when during this meeting, when they were trying to send her back, send her back, send her back, the president should have just said, "Hold on a second." In my opinion, the president said, "Hold on a second." No one, this I can't even pronounce her name. Omar, I think is last name. She's a refugee from Somalia who immigrated here when she was younger. She's a success story of what could happen. But then again, she came in as a refugee, became an American citizen, and boom, running for Congress. Now the problem is, where she grew up is a totally different America than a lot of other people. I mean, to tell you the truth, during the Iraqi war, there was a lot of Iraqi refugees that was immigrated here. And believe me, their life is slightly different than mine. Now, some of those guys, now, the funny thing is, some of those guys are probably better off than I am right now. But that's neither here nor there. But I look up and it's like, well, people try to flee their country for a better life. They come here illegally, so they are breaking the law. But but the thing is that if you're technically targeting a specific type of people, that could be considered racist based upon your viewpoint. Now, one of my friends, he says, "I'm disgusted about white America. I'm disgusted about white America." Who he's white, and I read his rants, and I look up and it's like, and the funny thing is, a lot of our mutual friends kind of clown on him, but I'm like, you know, this dude, he kind of has a point. The problem is that you're not able to see the kind of stuff I did. So I remember, it was hilariously funny. I remember him complaining about a representative in his city, saying this and 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 this. So I responded to him and said, "Oh, my father is up." Oh, so he goes. So I go. So my father creating trouble again, and then he looks up. He goes, "I did not realize that was your father." Then he had to take a closer look to what he was talking about. And the thing about it, he was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Wow." I said, "Yeah, my dad grew up during the civil rights era, like your parents did." But think about his experience is slightly different than yours. And then that's when he's like, "Oh, wow, that's amazing. I didn't ever thought about that." And a lot of people don't because they never had to experience it. They may experience it in some ways where they're like, if I go to a certain area, like for example, there's a certain area in Michigan called Beverly Hills. Beverly Hills, Royal Oak area. Now, I used to live in that area. Did I get pulled over? Yes, I got pulled over many times. And when I showed them my ID, I said, "Oh, I live right down the street." Now, the funny thing about it is that the area has a lot of, there's the gay community is very heavy in that area. So I'm like, if you're prejudicial and discriminate towards me, and you got this, so why come you're not discriminating against this? Oh, okay, fine. But the thing about racism is the fact that one, a lot of people never experienced it. I remember back in the day, I worked at a restaurant, and the owner of this restaurant, we got so many children of the night here. That's the thing he said. Now, the funny thing is that he was like Indian or something like that, Indian Pakistani or something like that. His staff was either white or black. What are you talking about, children of the night? Or a lot of times when I go into a grocery store and the people are following me left and right, but some other people are just walking back. And some people say, "Well, you're new here. Well, you've never been in the store before, so they will try to figure out what you're trying to do." Okay, I understand that. But the problem is that other people do the same thing, and you're not following them up and down the store. Well, they thought you were going to steal something. I fit the profile. See, when you profiling, that's a sort of racism because. So I went in there with like a t-shirt and jeans and something like that, and that's what they did. Funny thing is, when I came in there with a suit and tie, they still followed me. I bet you thought you was thinking, "Oh, he probably didn't follow you because you're wearing a suit." No, they still followed me. Do I have that kind of face? Maybe. I don't know. But here's the thing: I don't need to steal. I got money. Funny thing was is that I remember I set up for an interview for a job, and what happened was when they called my name, I stood up, and the guy goes, "Oh, I didn't know you were black." Because I have a very white sounding name. Okay, but okay, fine. But see, that's little bits of it's your perceptions of things. I remember it was funny when I was in Japan and I was with some people and they saw this white guy wearing shorts in the wintertime, and they go, "Oh, look at that white boy there, yeah, you gotta tell that's a white person." And I'm like, "Oh my goodness, not even here." So I mean, I was halfway across the world and that shit happens. So it's everywhere. But the problem is that a lot of people have more sense to keep that to themselves. Like I said, this is a very difficult thing to concept. For example, people talk about white privilege, and some people say, "I don't have white privilege. I don't have an advantage over you." And I go like, "That's not exactly what white privilege is, but that's your definition." One people's definition of white privilege is that they get a better advantage, in which they say they don't. Real white privilege is in certain situations you are treated better than some other people. I was driving, I had a passenger in my car. We got pulled over by the police. His side, the cop just walks up normal. My side, the cop has his hand on a gun. My friend's a registered gun owner and had a gun. Did not. Where you going? All these questions. With them, they ask them this. I got a gun. Show them a gun. Oh yeah, they told them having pleasant. Me, they're giving me the third degree. This your car? I'm like, yes. I showed you my license. You see the plate? It matches. This is on the. But the fun thing is, I'm getting the third degree. Profiling is everybody does it. Profiling is a form of racism. But the thing is for different reasons. Now, some of you might not agree with what I'm saying, but you got to think about it. If you can't experience certain things like that, how can you say it doesn't exist? So here's a question. So a lot of people tell me that. I'm saying, well, okay. You tell me God exists. Well, God does exist. Where's the proof? I said, where's the proof of God existing? I don't see him. He's not walking by me. He's not giving me a high five and all this. I said, what's up, man? No, he ain't doing all that shit. So how can you tell me God exists? Well, he does. So you telling me that something don't exist. You telling me that white privilege don't exist because you can't experience it, but I'm telling you, God don't exist because you can't experience it. But you got to go on faith. Bingo! You have to go on faith. Now, true. Now, here's the funny thing: affirmative action is a form of racism. It is. Now, I'm going to the flip side. Affirmative action is a form of racism. It really is. Why? Because guess what? Because an organization or community or whatever has to have some kind of minority. Now, of course, a lot of people don't look at it and say, okay, well, Art, you got your job because of affirmative action. Pretty much, yeah. But then again, was I the better quality candidate for that job? So here's the thing. So this is what happened at my job interview, of the job I had for almost 19 years now. Wow, I didn't realize you were white. Sorry, I didn't realize you were black because your name sounds like you're white. Like, yeah, I get that a lot. So we got 3 candidates for this job, and the funny thing is that my boss at the time, she was black, and she took me in her confidence and tell me this. We had a closed door meeting, and she goes, "You know what? I have the final decision on who I want. I wanted you not necessarily because one, you're a black male, and we need more black males in this agency. Okay, yeah, your grades wasn't the hottest, but I know that you work hard. I can tell you work hard. Another thing is you grew up in this area, so you know this area. I work in the area I grew up in because my dad lives 10 minutes that way. At the time, both my grandparents lived 10 minutes that way. And what happens was what impressed me was when they try to grill you on certain things, you gave them an answer very quickly. And I said, oh, the service area is doing this. And so that means you sometimes will go into this part of Saigon, right? They call it Little Saigon, right? Still? Okay. So you go in that part of that. And the person who's supposed to go out and do certain things in the community, they want to go. If it was south of that road, let's call Michigan Avenue. If it was south of Michigan Avenue, she didn't want to go because that was the ghetto. That was the hood. That's where all the black people lived. North of Michigan Avenue, she didn't mind going because there was blacks and whites and all sorts of stuff. So whenever she had to go into that certain area, guess who she had to tag along? Wait for it. Oh yeah, it's me. Well, you grew up in this area, so I directed her where she had to go. I said, even though I haven't lived here in 10 years, but I do know this place. And the funny thing is, she felt safer. I'm like, So, me being black was wrong for me getting the job here, but me being black being your pseudo bodyguard, I guess that's better, right? I don't know. But she kind of mellowed out for a lot. But the funny thing is, yeah, part of the reason why I got the job because I was black. Yeah, was that racist? Hell yeah. You could look at it that way. Was I a better candidate than some of those other people, the two of those other people who technically grew, and one of them went to what I call the country club office. That person lived in that area, so it was easier for that person. There's another person lived don't have to travel. So I'm back. I was where I was, and the funny thing is, I proved myself many times over. Won many freaking awards. In-office awards, of course. 2 real awards. So, I mean, it's funny. But then again, like I said, it's that perception. Like I said, I really didn't want to do this video because it's kind of hard for me to talk about this stuff like this. Except for talking about personal things that I experienced. But hopefully I did it in such a way that it's not pro-black or pro-white or anything like that. I try to show you 2 different sides of it. So with that, I'm going to end this video because I could talk about this for hours and not really accomplish anything. But hopefully I got enough what I'm talking about. Basically, racism is everywhere. The problem is acting upon it. We all discriminate against things. Coke or Pepsi. Mountain Dew or Mellow Yellow. There's all types of forms of discrimination. You just don't pay attention to it. But when it comes to people, that's where it's more prevalent. And thing is, you could take one act, for example. I'll give you a quick example. I just found out about this. A beauty queen in Michigan got stripped of her crown for potentially racist, and not racist, necessarily racist, but racially insensitive tweets. She went to U of M, or she's still at U of M, and what happened is the fact that they had to wear a hijab day. I don't know. That's how she explained it. So she makes a joke about it. Also, do we have to wear hijabs today? Now, I'll tell you the truth. To some people, I can see, yeah, she's being sarcastic. Yeah, she is being sarcastic. But here's a problem. If you were me saying something like that, that's one thing. But you're Miss Michigan. You're a beauty queen. You have a certain status. Now, tell you the truth, is she a racist? Probably not. She's probably not even remotely close because she's Asian. She's probably not even that way. She's probably cool, she's probably not racist at all. But the problem is that her tweets can be kind of insensitive. But the problem is she looks up and she's like, I don't know why I got stripped of crown. I didn't say anything insensitive. But remember one thing, you're representing an organization. And a lot of those organizations have what they call moral clauses. So which means certain things you do have a certain amount of weight to them. And the thing is that, so what happened is they stripped her of her crown because they don't want the scrutiny. And all the conservatives are complaining about it. But you forget, conservative belief is that any organization, business or whatever, can do whatever it wants and act on its own rules. Except when it happens to them. I don't know. But anyway, this is almost 30 minutes of me rambling about stupid shit. Well, racism is not really stupid, but I try to do it in a way to make it more entertaining. You know, racism is not entertaining. But anyway, I'm going to get going. I should shave today sometime. I'm going to do some hunting. Not animals, but anyway. Talk to you guys later.